Hello my friends, welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to talk about the CAMMUS C12.
First off, I want to thank CAMMUS for providing a test model of the C12. In the last few years, a lot of new sim driving hardware came out and I had the premiere on 0 of them. From today on, make that 1 because of CAMMUS. The C12 is the continuation of the C5 line of design, and I must say that after my C5 review, I was really looking forward to this one. When you pull it out of the box, you directly notice that CAMMUS has opted to go for a less futuristic and more traditional approach of the steering wheel this time. The C12 comes with a 30cm round steering wheel, but it will also be offered with a GTS steering wheel when it becomes available. It features an external brushless fan that you can use for cooling. The attachment happens with 2 T-form brackets that can be attached to your rig directly. There is also the choice to add an optional desktop clamp for attachment to a desk.
So what really stands out for this wheelbase is how compact it really is. I already saw this with the C5 and the C12, it is the same thing. When you look at the depth of the wheelbase, it is 6.5 centimeters. Now this allows for you to bring your screen really close to behind your steering wheel because it is so compact.
Another thing would be the soberness of the design. It looks very black with just a few accents. Because of the used materials, it has a very premium look and feel to it. My favorite in the design are the lights. All the buttons can be programmed with a different color. This doesn't only help with functionality, it simply looks good too. On top of this, there is the retro speedometer and a bright programmable rev bar. While I had my reservations about the design of the C5 wheelbase, the C12 base and steering wheel looks really nifty.
So looking at technology, it has a motor in it which can generate a constant torque of 12 Nm and it has peaks up to 15-16 Nm. So this is really a very powerful motor.
How they accomplish this is by integrating the motor with a button hub and essentially making this a part of the motor. The technology is already used widely in robotics, but for sim driving wheelbases, CAMMUS is the first to implement it. And it works brilliantly.
You always hear about quick releases and the quality of the quick releases. Now, with the CAMMUS, no problem, it doesn't have a quick release. However, you can put another steering wheel on it. It is pretty universal, the steering wheel, so you can just take out the screws and put on another steering wheel. The shifters are magnetic and they can't be adapted, so they stay at the same distance for your fingers. I noticed that because when I put my 33cm steering wheel, it became much harder to reach the shifters. So that's something to take into account. So it has 10 normal buttons, it has 6 rotary knobs, 4 of them also have a push function on it, and then you have 2 joysticks, and the left one can be used as a mouse emulator, and this is a really handy tool. The steering wheel also made out of leather or leather-like, I don't know exactly. I know in the comments of the C5 somebody shocked me because I said it was leather, but actually it was leather-like. In any case, it feels really soft, really good to the touch, and also the stitching that they used on the steering wheel, it is also very soft.
They did not skim on the used material either. The normal buttons are mechanical ones, and about the only piece of plastic I can find on the wheelbase are the 2 sturdy rotary knobs next to the display. All the rest seems to be made out of metal.
In general, the design, the build quality, it just feels premium.
When I started driving in ACC, I first put it on 70% of the available power, but it took just a few minutes to realize that this was just too much. When turning it down to 50%, the steering wheel was much more manageable for my spaghetti arms. Apart from the strength it can generate, what really stood out was the amount of detail when taking corners. You are experiencing centrifugal force while feeling the bumps and feeling the jolt of force for hitting the curbs. And all of this at the same time. Truly astounding. Unlike the CAMMUS LP8, where it was all power but the sensation itself felt relatively bland, the C12 is absolutely filled with detailed force feedback. You can really easily feel the variation of the different surfaces and condition of the road. It is subtle when it needs to be, but is not afraid of letting you know when you overcooked your braking, when you lose your traction, or if you just hit a curb too hard. The steering feels very direct and a return to center feels realistic and fluent. The shifters are, a bit loud for my taste, but do the job admirably. Changing the settings with the rotary knobs is also a piece of cake due to the material and layout of them. It all just feels very well made. I look forward into doing a back-to-back with the Thrustmaster T818 to see how good it really is in terms of driving sensation. While it already felt sublime in ACC, my favorite part of the C12 is driving it in BeamNG. In addition to what I said for ACC, here I can safely say that it has been the nicest drive so far that matches the driving sensation in real the most. It was particularly the fluent descent through the corners in Italy that made me fall in love with the C12. The steering here is lighter and more at ease, while the steering wheel slides ever so fluent through your hands. When climbing some mountains, the C12 shows its different side, smooth but with the ability to easily sprain your wrists if you make a mistake. Driving a lorry on the other hand is smooth but heavy. In all, a very pleasant experience. One thing I hope is that CAMMUS, like Fanatec, will also look into full force, or true force, whatever you want to call it, because it will take driving simulation even a level higher.
So for software, well, I think when I started out reviewing CAMMUS hardware, it was a bit of in a beta version, the software, but when I see how it evolved now, it is really getting good. You have the settings, of course, as usual, that are explained very how shall it say, user-friendly, what everything means. They also have an app that you can connect with Bluetooth to the base. I haven't used that one. I explained this before. I really don't like to have software on my telephone.
The compatibility is PC only, and while I have read on Reddit that there are plans to have console compatibility in the future, there is no real official timeline established for it.
Ecosystem is not terrible at this moment. You have two different pedal sets that you can have, and you have like another steering wheel that you can have, and that is it. Which is very basic.
Pricing is sharp. For a price of $549 or €507, you can get a 12 Nm wheelbase with a more than decent 30 cm round steering wheel. At the moment I'm making this video, the cheapest comparable wheelbase would be the Simagic Alpha Mini 10 Nm wheelbase without a steering wheel at $539. It is safe to say that the C12 gives excellent bang for buck. The availability of the C12 will follow the path CAMMUS has been setting up in the last months. They will collect pre-orders and send the wheelbases en masse to warehouses in the different regions, in order to lower shipment prices and make the entire order and delivery process more transparent. You can order the C12 via their official webshop. Also, don't forget to add the code NeoSphinx to get your reduction.
A general conclusion would be, well, from the moment that you open the box of the C12, you are in awe. You pull it out and you see the nice leather steering wheel. You just touch the buttons and you hear the mechanical click. You know that you have quality in your hands, and it just gets better when you connect it. So then you see the lights on the steering wheel, and when you drive it, you feel the vibrations and the force feedback that it generates, which is really nice. So I think you get for this price a fantastic piece of hardware.
The lack of quickly being able to change steering wheels is perhaps my main point of criticism. Another point would be that there is no console compatibility out of the box possible. But that is where the criticism ends. The C12 embodies perfectly what I expect from a wheelbase. It is compact, stylish and functional, and was able to provide me a fantastic experience for both the sim driving and sim racing part. I can only hope that CAMMUS will keep their prices as democratic as possible and that they keep on innovating. Often, the more expensive hardware is considered to be better, but the C12 proves that this is not always the case. Yes, it is cheap while comparing it to the competition, but nothing about it feels cheap. I would recommend this wheelbase to any advanced budget-conscious simulation driver out there.
Thank you all for watching. I hope you had something from this video. Please leave a like if you did. Subscribe if you want to see more videos, reviews, versus videos. And I will see you all next one. Bye bye.